Let's take a look at the Photoshop family of products. Primarily there are two editions, Photoshop CS6 and Photoshop CS6 Extended. CS6 ships with the Creative Suite Design Standard. Extended ships with the Creative Suite Design Premium and other collections. The way you can find out if you own Extended, or what I call Photoshop CS6 Standard, is by looking for the 3D menu. If the 3D menu is present in your menu bar, you are on Extended. If it is not, you have only Standard, or what they call Adobe Photoshop CS6. In fact, let's take a quick look at the 3D features unique to Extended. This bottle was created by placing an Illustrator file and going to the 3D menu and choosing New Mesh from Layer. Under that submenu, they actually have a bottle preset. I didn't draw that or bring it in from another program. Photoshop automatically created it for me and wrapped my Illustrator file around the label. You could actually start with any flat image to make a 3D object. Once you're on a 3D object, I can move down to the bottom and look for the circle to rotate, and the little guides that tell me I'm rotating around the x-axis. When I click and drag, one of the very cool new features of CS6 Extended is this live shadow that follows my 3D object. Let's go back to the editions or Photoshop family comparison. So 3D is one you get only in Extended. I should mention that if you plan to do 3D, you do need video RAM or a video card that has memory on it dedicated to video tasks. When I ordered my computer, it came with 256 megabytes of VRAM or video memory. I upgraded it to 512 megabytes. You need a minimum of 512 to use the 3D features. In fact, the computer I'm working on today has 1 gigabyte of video RAM. So for the 3D features, it is faster than my personal computer. There are two other versions of Photoshop. Actually, technically not Photoshop, but part of the family. Lightroom was designed from the ground up with photography in mind. It's excellent for the professional photographer as well as the hobbyist. It's based on a database. So although I live in Adobe Bridge for managing my personal images, with large folders of images, Bridge can slow down. But because Lightroom uses a database to do all its cataloging, it is much faster. Lightroom also heavily uses the Adobe Camera Raw dialog, known as ACR, to do corrections. So those are a few reasons why you might look at purchasing Lightroom. And finally, we have Photoshop Elements. Elements I call the beginner version of Photoshop. Anyone could use this, and it's designed for home use. It's ideal for people who want to scan and retouch, archive photos, old photos from their family, or people who have point-and-shoot cameras, consumer class cameras that don't have changeable lenses. It even does a great job at correcting your phone images. Some of the new smartphones have really high-res cameras in them. My new iPhone shoots in HDR, high dynamic range, so I'm getting some quite pleasing images out of there. And I actually use Adobe Bridge and the Camera Raw dialog to make those spectacular. One other difference before we leave between Photoshop CS6 and CS6 Extended is something you may never encounter: medical imaging. To open a medical image, I have to use the File menu and the Open dialog. Double-clicking on a medical image at your operating system will often open it in a text editor. My vet was kind enough to give me permission to use an X-ray of my dog in this class. So when I choose File Open and navigate to my Assets folder and Chapter 1, I'll see the X-ray.dcm DICOM image. I'll click Open just to show you a little bit of what they can do, and you'll see the X-ray of my dog's leg. As I scroll down on the right, I can even see her name, Fell or if you're English, tell McCatherine. If I hit open again, I can do everything that I would normally do in Photoshop to this image, including zooming in. They also have some importability as a sequence of X-rays. But since I really never touch the DICOM images and don't work in the medical field, I'm going to close this and hit Don't Save. Now, to finish up this video, I'm going to go over a little bit of history. Adobe was founded all the way back in 1982, and for a useless fun fact, the name Adobe actually came from the creek that runs behind John Warnock's home. John Warnock was one of the 2 original founders of Adobe. And you could see a screenshot of the original Adobe logo designed by Warnock's wife. Photoshop actually started shipping with version 1 in 1990. We're all the way up to version 13 with CS6. If you're curious about more of a timeline for Adobe, I have included a web link so you can check it out yourself. One other note, in Photoshop CS5, a difference between Photoshop Standard and Extended was video editing. In CS6, video editing not only got a lot easier, but you can do it with only Photoshop Standard. If I look at the bottom of my screen, in the Essentials workspace, which is the default, I'll see a timeline. I can click once on the timeline to bring it up, and I have a video where I've added this background and some opening credits and a little soft noise. I'm going to hit the spacebar to play this video. Or I can click the play button in the timeline. Stand up, Roman. You can do it. Yeah. Good job. What a happy little stander. So in this video, I was able to add the background, a fade to black, even some transitions, and I replaced the audio from the original video because the TV was running in the background and it was distracting. So check out the new video features. I find them far easier in CS6. I'll double click on Timeline to collapse it. I'll go back to my Editions document. So in summary, there are 2 primary editions of Photoshop and 2 other products designed for photography and home or hobbyist users. If you want to see a more detailed comparison, I've also included the web address on adobe.com to see a full feature list.